morning, everybody. Delighted to be here with you all. Whenever I speak to groups about future workplace issues, I always like to sort of reminisce together about my former career as a musician. So I spent 20 years as a touring rock musician, working all over the world. A fond memory for being on the left coast is a gig that I did in August of 1980 at the Forum in LA, in front of 18,000 people, opening for Heart. I was playing bass in Robert Palmer's band at the time. You know Robert Palmer, the English pop singer? Might as well face it, you're addicted to love. That guy. So that was our first gig. We went into a 3 months tour. Of course, I was 8 years old at the time. Bit of a prodigy, you might say. But it was a fun time. One of the 7 careers that I've had over the course of my 40 years in the workplace. I want to also thank you for having me here. Delighted to be talking about this topic. It's one that's near and dear to my heart. I want to start with a little context, give you some sort of socio-global business perspective, what we're going to talk about, then go through the 3 megatrends, multiple generations, social media at work, and globalization, and then conclude with some ideas about how you might take these findings or information back to your organization. To paraphrase Peter Drucker, right? Don't tell me you had a great meeting with me. Tell me what you're going to do differently on Monday. So hopefully we can come away with that at the end. As was mentioned, I worked at IBM for 15 years in a variety of roles in HR comms at headquarters, did a lot of work in virtual worlds, actually, supporting executives and general managers in the lines of business. My last role was at IBM Global Financing, which is basically the bank inside IBM. I drove a lot of social media adoption, which, as you might imagine, was pretty interesting in what's traditionally quite a risk-averse situation. But we had execs blogging by the end, and it was really quite exciting. So, 2020 Workplace. I have 3 copies of the book, actually. We're going to raffle them off at the end. The work I'm going to share today is based on this book. Gene Meister, who's a founding partner of Future Workplace, created this book a couple of years ago to give insight to HR execs, people in learning and talent management in organizations, giving them a sense of how they can take advantage of the sea change that's occurring. We're a small boutique consulting firm based in New York. We run a couple of events a year with not only HR leaders, but chief innovation officers and marketing people, helping them strategize around these shifting models. Let's get into a time machine. Okay, everybody, we're going to go forward. Let's go up to 2020 with Katya and see what it's going to look like for her in this new model.
Future Workplace presents Katya's first day. Today is my first day of work at D&Y, one of the 2 accounting firms left in year 2020. I've been an intern here for the last 3 years. During this time, I've had video chats monthly on the D&Y Facebook page, completed a summer job at the D&Y Romania office, and competed via YouTube in a D&Y contest to build a new school in Uganda over the summer. Now it's my first morning of orientation, and thankfully it's blissfully short. After I check in on the retina scanner to confirm my identity, I upload all my benefits selections and download my onboarding materials onto my iWatch. The next step in orientation is to play D&Y Shadow Spectator, a video game, which lets me job shadow a D&Y auditor for a day. The game is fun and a great way to learn about career options at the company. Now, on to the important job, to select my manager for the next 12 months. There are a series of presentations delivered via Holo Presents from 5 possible managers. They profile their areas of focus, preferred working, communicating and learning styles, and their commitment to mentoring and coaching new hires. Before making my selection, I also check out how each of the managers is rated on Rate Your Manager, an internal rating tool. Voila! I just made my choice, and I'm ready to get started at my new and exciting job. The 2020 Workplace is here today.
So that's Katya talking about what's looming. Much of this is theoretical, aspirational, if you will, but I think it's thought-provoking. Hope it gives you some ideas about where this is going. Yeah, so we'll go back to the slides. Thank you. Let's talk about jobs and ones that exist and didn't exist. So anybody doing a job now that didn't exist 5 years ago? Probably younger people. Here we go. Yeah. So there's stats that say like 35% of the jobs that say younger workers are doing now didn't exist 5 years ago. So here's some clear examples, right? A friend of mine's daughter graduated with a degree in graphic design, couldn't get a traditional job, ended up working at a firm in New York that creates iPad apps. So that, 5 years ago, that wasn't a job. Now it's a burgeoning field, right? So some other examples, certainly putting everything in the cloud, social network managers, that's a role that's really in demand, especially at sort of ad agencies where you need to capture business analytics and map them to social trending. 3D printing, who knows where that's going, right? That's huge in medical now. They're printing organs and ears and blood vessels. There's a researcher at Harvard. So again, as a metaphor for where the workplace is going, estimates are that 85% of the jobs that today's learners are going to be doing, say in the next 10 years, haven't been invented yet. They're going to be using technology that doesn't exist today. And they're going to be using it to solve problems we don't yet even know are problems. So that's a new model for how workers work and how they learn. Okay, here's the pop quiz. We have many educators in here, so you'll relate to the pop quiz, okay? So this is not me pulling this out of here. This is the U.S. Department of Labor is making this estimate about how many jobs today's learners are going to have by the time they're 38. Any guesses? Come on, be brave. 5, 7, 25. Okay, that's a good range. Here's the real number. 10 to 14. So they may be changing jobs every 18 months or so, and not because they have to, but because they want to and because they can, and because new jobs and new roles are emerging. They're going to be doing jobs again that don't exist. So let's talk about the first of the three trends, so multi-generational workforce. This is happening more and more. Key drivers include at one end the fact that people are healthy longer and able to work longer and also often need to make money longer. And the other end is that many younger workers, Gen Z and whatever, are very technologically savvy and certainly are aware of what's going on from a social culture perspective, and businesses want that insight, so they're pulling in the younger range of employees. Okay, the next quiz. These are the 5 generations we're proposing. Gen Z, people call them, Gen 2020 or Gen C. Gen Z is what the Drucker Institute, that's the terminology that they use. I think it's good. Although a friend said, where do you go after that? Is it Gen AA? Are we starting again, but with the double letters? Or how's that going to work? I don't know. Not for me to figure out. So anybody here that's a traditionalist? All right. How about boomers? I count myself among the boomers, born 1950. How about Gen X? Yeah, the Gen Xers, yeah. Millennials. Some millennials, the ones that are going to take over. Probably no Gen Z, but this is like kids in high school, right, or junior high. They're going to be in the workforce in, 4 to 6 to 8 years or so. So there's been a lot of research done, and there's certainly varying perspectives on values and what's important as regards to social responsibility, et cetera. But it's less about age, we're discovering, and more about sort of adaptability and understanding of age diversity. So this is how it skews in the US in 2014. So the bottom 3 categories, if you will, the traditionalist, boomers, and Gen X, are about 56% today, almost 2/3, and they're going to be reduced to about 42%. This is obvious, right? So the Gen Z and the millennials are going to trend the other way. They're going to be almost 2/3 of the workforce by 2020. So that's a big, big influence that they're going to have. That's obviously a US view. This kind of discussion and segmentation and analysis goes on all over the world. I just wanted to share a view of some other countries, particularly emerging markets like China and India. They have different terms, different nomenclature. but very similar kinds of ways to look at demographics. So Japan has a first baby boomer and a second baby boomer segmentation. China, it's very much based on their planning process, right? So it's 10-year kind of model. So they say you're the post-50s, post-60s, et cetera. India, more broader categories, writ large, traditional, non-traditional, and then this a newer Gen Y, people born in 1981 and before, but all and afterwards. All by way of saying that there are different ways to look at this, but this is happening all over the world. That the demographics are skewing younger, and that they're working together in the same workplace more and more. This is a look at some criteria that we've used. This was a study that was done by ARP on the multi-generational workforce. And you can see a range. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I'll share these charts, by the way, with Emily, and you can take a look at them. But just worth noting, particularly, say, around leadership. So traditionalists are more comfortable with hierarchy. They don't feel like a flat structure is necessarily the right approach. They can deal with first line, second line managers, whereas millennials are more focused on, say, pulling together an achievement as a group. View of authority, traditionalists, respectful. It's coming out of a generation where people in authority were regarded with a certain amount of reverence and respect, whereas Gen X are unimpressed with authority. And millennials are relaxed and polite about it, but not obsessive. One that's particularly interesting to me is around a perspective. So civic-minded traditionalists, right, are thinking more locally, I think, just because that's what their perspective was growing up. Whereas we're finding, certainly in millennials and even Gen Z, that they would rather work for a company, say, that has a strong record of corporate social responsibility than one that doesn't. That many of them would not take a job at a company that had a poor record. That they want to do something that will impact the planet. There's some number like 39% of millennials are focused on social issues as a key part of how they make a decision around where to work, whereas Gen Z, it's as high as like 60% now. So it's skewing even stronger in that direction. So again, just keeping in mind different perspectives across this multiple generation environment. What are companies doing? How do you build generational intelligence? It's key now. Lots of different approaches. Certainly preparing hiring managers to get ready to bring resources in across different generations. Generational intelligence is a whole study now. It's a whole area of study. It's a discipline. And companies are specifically addressing how to assess a workforce and how to integrate across generations. People are launching affinity groups based on multi-generational interests. So maybe people that are interested in a topic that spans ages, that's sort of generationally agnostic, if you will, getting together and talking about and working on things that they have a common interest in. Building age diversity as an imperative into sourcing. We're seeing things also like reverse mentoring. Get someone younger to come in and talk to somebody older about technology, about motivation, about ethics, about perspectives, and share them. And making it a business strategy, certainly. To the degree you can identify issues and address them, it drives a P&L, it can be tied directly to attributable revenue. A couple quick examples. TD Ameritrade. Interesting focus for them is that not only are their employees skewing younger, but their clients are skewing younger. So they've got to get Gen Ys and millennials comfortable talking to the next generation of investors. So we're out here in California, right? So a lot of wealthy entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley, friends telling stories about a guy walks into a Ferrari dealer in a t-shirt, and nowadays they can't be snobby, they can't be obnoxious, because this guy could be, like Zuckerberg's lieutenant or whatever. He's going to buy 5 Ferraris, pay cash. So, again, a different perspective on, where the money is. J. Walter Thompson, big ad agency, pulling in high school kids, Gen Z, to look at campaigns, how to build certainly socially savvy kinds of marketing campaigns and account perspective. Bank of America uses multi-generations as sort of an internal lab, a little incubator to look at how they interact and how it can drive revenue for their company. So trend 2. How many people here have a LinkedIn profile? All right, that's great. How about Twitter? Anybody tweeting this event, live tweeting as we sit here? Okay, somebody please do that. Somebody talk about what I'm talking about. How about Facebook? I guess people have Facebook pages, right? Yeah. Yep. So like keep up with friends or kids or whatever. Anybody more esoteric? So how about Instagram? Okay, it looks like younger. How about VACE? Do you know VACE? Yeah, that's like a driving tool, sort of like smart GPS navigation. Anyway, the point I want to make is that consumerization of IT, it's heading into business, right? Social at work. Some stats on hyperconnectedness of millennials. There's even a stat here that's like 30% say they'd forego sex rather than give up their cell phone. That's certainly, I didn't put that on the chart because I wasn't sure if you guys are ready to see that in print. And as a boomer, I find that kind of appalling. But anyway, just some stats around how connected people are in this generation, right? So, and it's only trending higher. Consumerization of IT, we're seeing that typically people use social in their personal lives more than they do in the business, right? So, 81% of people are using as a consumer, because employees are consumers, right? We all have multiple roles. 81% are using YouTube, say, at home or at work or with family, whatever, but only 38% of employees in a corporate setting. So to me, what this represents is a great opportunity, for example, to take these kinds of technologies and adoption and awareness and move them into a corporate setting. So the implication is that if they're watching YouTube at home, why not develop some MOOC or Spook-related content, delivering massively open online courses with video and deliver them in a corporate setting? And we're seeing more and more of that happening. So blogging, right? So people blog more personally than they do, say, externally. One of the things I did at IBM was get this general manager who runs IBM Global Financing to blog about what he was doing and be more transparent, and then people can interact, they can comment on his blog, they can congratulate him, they set up a dialogue within the confines of the company. In this case, it was behind the firewall, because obviously they're risk averse. We're talking billions of dollars with a B, leases and loans. But again, interesting that it's now moving into corporate settings. Where is it going? A couple of quotes from an analyst in a consulting firm, that social is becoming critical. So this gentleman at Forrester is talking about board members needing to be socially savvy within the next decade. It's true, there's a website actually, CEOs Who Tweet. I think you can go there. That's not the name of it, but if you Google it, you'll find it. There's a whole list. Obviously, Richard Branson is on there, but many people you wouldn't expect. John Chambers from Cisco. Again, more and more people understanding the impact of this to drive brand value and ultimately revenue. So executives think social media has a positive impact, allows them to be more transparent, helps them build and maintain relationships among colleagues. And we've been seeing this out into what IBM calls social business. So we had a team of young sales guys in global financing who were making contacts, building relationships and nurturing existing relationships using Twitter and LinkedIn. And the execs said, well, what are you guys doing? Like, well, why wouldn't we do this? This is like, this is how we operate, And they had a big number, I think it had like $500,000 in attributable revenue based on leads created through LinkedIn and Twitter. So, next question. Anybody using enterprise social networking software? Not too many. Show of hands, anybody using one of these tools? No? No? Yammer, okay, yeah. So, do you know what this is? This is basically Facebook on steroids behind the firewall, right? These tools. So these are the preeminent vendors currently. Yammer, which was recently bought by Microsoft, actually, about a year ago. IBM Connections is another one. Chatter is a tool that connects to Salesforce's software. Jive is more of a document repository, but what these tools do is they allow you to create environments where people can share, they can collaborate, facilitates expertise location, and again, generally builds a sense of community within an organization. Again, it drives the internal digital brand, which is more and more important. A great story about speaking at a conference, and a woman said that they had an intern at an insurance company who was terrific. They loved her. She did a great job. She was there for the summer, energetic, got the whole social thing. They offered her a job, and she turned them down like without blinking. And they said, well, why wouldn't you work for us? Because you did such a great job. We're a big insurance company. He says, because you're not using social to sell your product. Why would I work for you? You're like clueless. I'm out of here. And she went on to become quite, well known in the social space, and went to some small boutique firm and drove a lot of revenue using social, using these kinds of tools. So I encourage you to investigate these. They're really quite powerful. They're freemium versions of several of these. Certainly Yammer, you could try it out for free on your network. We've been using it at Future Workplace. We just got an enterprise license for Yammer. Very excited about that. Using social for recruiting. So in HR, P&G has a very active Twitter handle and Facebook pages that they use to recruit all over the world. You can subscribe, and they put up job postings, and you can tweet to them with questions. Siemens ran a campaign on Tumblr looking for managers, searching through blogs, looking for leadership characteristics, people who wanted to be in a leadership role at Siemens, and found some great candidates. You can even now apply for a job on your phone. So many companies are making job listings accessible through LinkedIn on a cell phone, on a mobile device, and you can then either share the job, save it, you can send it to a friend if you think it's more appropriate for them, or apply right on your phone, attaching some kind of digital resume, using this social model, looking for work. Anybody seen Glassdoor? All right, so this is a screen grab of the Ventura County page for Glassdoor. I figured you might be interested in seeing it. This is part of the new model of paid, owned, and earned, where you don't control the message. Your company, your organization doesn't totally control it anymore. Employees, media, press, analysts, journalists, whomever, can weigh in on your company and rate it and rank it. And this is back to the sort of rate your manager model that I showed you in the video. So here's some criteria. They look at it, the company based on culture and values, work-life balance, senior management, comp and benefits, career opportunities. Typically in a private company, in the private sector, they'll rank the CEO. There'll be like a percentage, 78% think he's doing a good job or whatever. And then there are a series of comments. People will weigh in saying, yeah, it's a good place to work. People are smart and attentive, very supportive. So if you're not aware of this, I would encourage you to look up your company or organization just to get a sense of what's going on. Okay, 5 minutes, here we go. So let's get to trend 3, globalization. Stats about multinationals. So there were 3,000 in 1990, 30-fold increase in 2014, there's 100,000. Anybody read The World is Flat? Thomas Friedman's book? Yeah, that's a great book, a seminal work on globalization, right? To paraphrase Corian Draker from Linden Labs, technology is making geography history. So if you can jack into the network, back to the matrix, right, you can work anywhere. So maybe the next Einstein, she's living in a mud hut in Kenya, or someone with a great idea to drive your business model. If they can get on the internet, they can work. Challenges associated with globalization. So here's, based on a survey the Economist Intelligence Unit did, different working styles, certainly. People from different cultures have different ways to work, different rates and pace. Inability to understand local culture, or cultural conflicts between, say, staff and management. Key areas of focus. What are companies doing about it? There's an organization called the Thunderbird School of Global Management in Arizona that teaches a program. There are several programs in this area called Global Mindset, how to understand different cultures. Similar to, there's a great book, Kiss, Bow, Shake Hands, How to Do Business in 67 Countries. They run programs. You can go there. You can do them online. IBM, when I was in corporate citizenship, we sponsored this program called the Corporate Service Corps, where we send top-performing IBMers to locations around the world to interact with local governments, local businesses, get an immersion experience working on the ground with people, and then they bring that experience back to IBM. Executives are now clamoring for it. They have an executive corporate service corps now where they send senior execs to do more strategic kinds of roadmap planning based on technology. Lots of online resources. GlobeSmart has a tool that has lots of valuable information around globalization and how you can expand awareness in your organization. So, next steps. Here's some ideas for what you might take away from this. In terms of multi-generational, look at where the gaps might be. Look for opportunities to share. There's a funny guy, the Gen Y guy. He talks about pleading with boomers not to retire because we need the skill you have, long division. So that's a silly approach, but there are skills that can be shared, again, across generations. So in terms of technology, for example, we used to always say if you don't know how to, if you're not sure how to do something, say build a social media presence or whatever, find a teenager because they don't know it's supposed to be hard. They just kind of do it. So working with social evangelists, back to the example of the woman at the insurance company, try to find people. So I said to this guy, this exec who ran this company, he's like, well, so here's what you should have done, what I would do, and I encourage you to do this in your organizations. So if that woman comes to you and says, you're not using social to sell insurance, I would give her a staff, I'd give her a budget, I'd give her air cover from a P&L for a year, a couple of years, and say, go to it, figure this out, make this work for us, Globalization, lots of opportunities to identify where, say in your organization or in the broader ecosystem that connects to your organization, where there are people across the world that might provide guidance, thought leadership, input. Go on LinkedIn. That's actually how I found Jean Meister. As I searched on LinkedIn for a future workplace, her name came up. We started a conversation. Here I am like a year and a half later, working as a strategic partner with her. So those are the three areas that you might think about as you leave here. This is me. You can follow me on Twitter. I got in pretty early, so I actually got my real name, @ChrisBishop. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to talk to you more about this. Take a look at my profile. You'll see some of the other kind of crazy jobs that I've had and different skills that I've developed over the years traveling through this future workplace model. And this is my email, chris@futureworkplace.com. I think I'm getting the hook here. Thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed speaking with you. Thanks for inviting me.